prophetic dreams. And later in my life, I heard about this amazing story where I was 1 year old in Elmhurst, New York, and my grandmother and my grandfather came to visit us from Brazil. They were there maybe a day, and she said, "João, we have to go home. We have to go home. Something's gonna happen. We have to go home." And he's like, "Maria, calm down. Everything's fine. Everything's gonna be okay." She's like, "No, I had a dream. We have to go home. Something's gonna happen." And he tried to calm her down, and she was inconsolable. And that evening, her daughter-in-law passed away while giving birth to my grandmother's grandson. And in Brazil, you die, you get buried. There's less than 24 hours, or at the most 24 hours in between one event and the other. So they had to get on the plane. Now, when they come from Brazil, it's 3 weeks, a month, 2 months, and they left, and they just barely made the funeral. So, at my sweet 16, in Brazil it's the 15th birthday, but they came to the United States for my sweet 16, and like 8 members of my family from Brazil came to the United States for my 16th birthday. And if you don't know a Brazilian family, when there are big events like this, there is a ton of prep. We make the brigadeiros, the empadas, we make the coquinhos, and the house becomes more of a hostel, okay? Does anyone know any South American families? They're just absolutely incredible. So 4 became 12. By the time my 16th birthday came around, I think there were 21 people sleeping in various rooms, surfaces throughout the course of my house, and it was magical. It was absolutely amazing. And the party was incredible, and it was 3 generations in one room, and it was beautiful. 2 weeks later, my grandmother comes out onto the porch, and I'm having coffee, watching the birds do their thing, and man, I just had the strangest dream. And she tells me that she's had this dream about Mariana, who happened to be the person who passed away in the first part of the story. She goes, Mariana was sitting in a park, in this beautiful park, and she was pregnant. And I came up to her, and she goes, Sia, it's so good to see you. And my grandmother's like, you look amazing. How is your life? How is everything? And she said, everything is wonderful. I'm with a new man, and he takes care of me, and everything's amazing. She's like, so why are you here? And she says, I'm waiting for my son. And 20 minutes later, we're talking over this dream, and screaming starts to happen from inside the house. Alceu Paulo passed away by a hit and run accident. And you die, and you're buried the next day. And so now the house starts to move, right? Plans have to be made. My dad and my uncle knew someone who was the vice president of Varig in Brazil, which is the only airline that flies to and from Miami. And they got a flight the next day. But then like Vavá goes outside and picks passion fruit from the tree, and she makes the juice because passion fruit is a natural calming device. And so she makes this huge juice of it. And during this moment where everyone's crying and drinking juice and consoling each other, my grandmother tells me, this was my dream. Paulo was Mariana's second-born son. And so that's the moment when she actually told me about her first dream that she had. And I always wondered, she's a magical woman, do I have any of that magic in me? And I never knew. So I'm 28 years old, and I'm in Tallahassee, Florida, and my family, my brother and my dad and I are going to go to Europe. We're going to do Belgium and Italy, and I am so excited. We're going to go to the city that my father's side of the family comes from, northeastern Italy, Belluno. No, it's in the Belluno province, but it's called Fonzaso. So I'm doing research on art and museums that I'm going to go to and things I'm going to see and all the things, right? So I am filling my headspace with all of that. And Belgium was incredible. The few visits around there, Liechtenstein and Amsterdam, that was amazing. And we get to Italy, and we get to this tiny little town in northeastern Italy. I grew up in Elmhurst, New York, 5 phone books this thick, and we're the only Furlin in it. I go to this tiny little pissant town in northern Italy, and everyone in literally their grandmother is a Furlin. And we're going through the cemetery, and they have like painted portraits of the people that are buried there, and they're all stamps of my brother and my father. It's absolutely amazing to see history on the faces of your family. And that night, we had to go to the bar, l'incontro, and we're drinking grappa and having fun and playing Jenga. And the rule with Jenga is that you knock it down, you buy a round. It was 14 rounds before I bought a round. It didn't last much longer after that, but my brother thought it was smart to buy a whole bar a round of whiskey, which they promptly laughed at. And they let him, pour himself out. And this is a really short place from L'Incontro to our hotel. The next day, my dad and I are supposed to go to the mayoral office to get our passports, our Italian passports. And my brother's way too hungover. Ain't no way he is getting out of that bed. So my dad and I start walking down. And as I get there, the buildings are tall and terracotta, and I have this strange feeling something's happening. And it reminds me of a dream I had where like a structure was coming out of water that everything inside was carved out of stone, but like was immobile. Like the chair, like imagine everything as it is right now, but nothing can move. The glasses, the chairs, the tables, the bar. It was remarkable, and let's not talk about the implications of that in dreamland. But anyway, I was like, okay, well that must be it. But I know that we have to make the right at the next corner. And I don't know how I know that. And I turn, and every hair on the back of my neck and body starts to stand up, and I freeze. And my father looks at me and says, Mariana, what's happening? Daddy, I've been here, I've dreamt this, I know it, I've been here. And he goes, what are you talking about? I'm like, I know that in the doorways, there are gonna be glass beads, and there are gonna be tables full of fabric and other kinds of beads. And when it opens up, it's gonna open up to this plaza where there's an aluminum umbrella that is red and white, and the chairs are red, and there's cafes and art galleries and the fountain, and then there's the mayoral office. And every hair is vibrating on my body. And my father goes, Mariana, but I never told you the story. I never took a picture. And in that moment, I knew that my grandmother passed me on some of her magic.